Booyah, and it's time for the Game Sports Podcast. It is your host, David McCaig Jr. Again, this is the Game Sports Podcast powered by 91N. That's 91 Network. 91 Network is a YouTube channel. Just give it a search. And when you're on that channel, make sure you hit subscribe. There's a variety of podcast content on there, from sports to mental health, as well as to agriculture. If you are operating a podcast, hosting a podcast, producing a podcast, whatever it may be, and you'd like to be a part of the 91N community, just simply email 91networkssm@gmail.com. Or if you're interested in starting a podcast, again, email 91networkssm@gmail.com. The Game Sports Podcast video versions are only on 91N, but if you're tuning in on the audio platform, you're likely on Spotify, maybe you're on Apple, Amazon, Google, Podbean, Podtail. No matter where you're listening to, that simple like, that simple follow, that simple subscribe, that comment goes a long way, especially those comments. We love those interactions. As well, I must remind you, we are on all social media platforms, meaning we're on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Just search at the Game Sports Podcast, and you will not miss us. Okay, with a lot of great content, daily uploads on social medias. Got to give credit to my social media team, as well as content. We do 2 episodes a week here on the Game Sports Podcast, as well as bonus episodes with our special edition uploads that feature sports figures in the world of sports of all kinds. You could check out those from Theo Fleury, James Duthie, Marcel Dion, Pete Mahovlich. The list goes on. Just check it all out on 91 Network or on the audio platform for older ones as well. Now, this is technically, people look at this episode as in multiple ways. One, the Monday edition of the Game Sports Podcast. So this is the January 22nd, 2024 pre-recording of the Game Sports Podcast on Monday, which is uploaded on all platforms Tuesday. Or people look at it as the first segment of the week, and this is the January 22nd week, of course. So either way, whatever you look at it, this is the first episode of this week. Okay, I'll keep it as simple as that. And you got yours truly for the solo portion, going solo on the solo side here for the portion of the first segment. And then when we take a quick breather, I will have Alex and Dane joining yours truly for the second segment, which is technically our top shelf segment, but we're going to call it our second segment, where we're going to invade your ears with hockey. Okay, invade it with hockey. In this first segment, I'm going to be talking about a little bit of football reaction. I don't want to take any fire from the second or the Wednesday edition of the Game Sports Podcast, but nonetheless, I'm going to give a little bit of reaction for football because the news is hot. It's good content, but we're going to be into the bulk of the news on Wednesday. But on Wednesday, we're going to talk about the previews of the championship games. Now, I'm going to also talk about the change draft rules topic, and this will be about 10 minutes, this opening segment, after I get through this introduction. So we're about 3 minutes in already, so give me an extra 10 when I'm done this. But nonetheless, those are going to be the 2 topics to start off today's show. Then obviously in the second segment, when Parr and Dane Hancherow join me, we'll talk variety of hockey. We're going to be going around the horn with hockey topics such as if Leaf fans are driving Alex Parr crazy. We're talking about Patrick Waugh returning. We're going to talk about Corey Perry. We're going to talk about dumb trades in fantasy hockey. And we're also going to have our NHL Re-Draft segment, which we started last week, but we're going to be redrafting 1981 NHL Draft. So you don't want to miss any of this content. And let's get it all started. I'm going to start with football. Now, watching the divisional games, it was a great weekend of football. Yesterday, which was Sunday, January 21st for me, and maybe a different day for you, but that was one of my favorite days of sports in a long time. Obviously, as everybody knows, taking my host hat off here as I move to the side on video, I am a Steelers fan through and through in football. And people ask, well, how'd you become a Steelers fan? Very simple. I was a late bloomer when it came into the world of football. I like the Oregon Ducks, and I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. People wonder how I don't like Michigan and how I don't like the Lions or the Bills, okay, or even the Green Bay Packers. I am a Pittsburgh Steelers fan because of one of my dad's friends that used to come over all the time and watch the Pittsburgh Steelers at my old house, at my childhood house. Secondly, I watched the NFL draft and I watched Ben Roethlisberger get drafted. And when he got drafted, that was my favorite player when I saw him. That's somebody I wanted, and coincidentally, it was to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I wasn't a Steeler fan because of their success, their story, and because they were starting to get good. I started liking them when they drafted Ben Roethlisberger, and I started liking the Steelers because of my dad's friend. Okay, so if you want my little explanation that you probably don't care about, there it is. But watching Pittsburgh win Super Bowls, those are one of my favorite sports moments. The Raptors winning. You know, the Leafs getting past the first round. That was one of my favorite sports moments. 19 years. The Toronto Blue Jays, I wasn't bold enough when they won, but to seeing them make the playoffs, but watching the 2015, 2016 teams, I got a lot of sports moments I can pull from. So I'm not talking moments, but I'm talking yesterday watching sports. It was a great day of football. Okay, the Lions and Buccaneers, they got the Chiefs and Bills, then the Leafs played the Kraken. Okay, now the Lions and Buccaneers was a great football game. Overall, great. I think it was tighter than maybe Lions fans wanted it to be, but that Baker Mayfield, you got to give him credit. But the Lions faithful, Ford Field was buzzing. The fans were buzzing. Lions faithful are having the time of their life. There's no way, if you're a football fan, that you can't feel love for the Detroit Lions. Unless you're a Buccaneers fan, maybe a Bills fan. But watching the Buccaneers and the Lions play yesterday, see the Lions pull away and now go down to the Final Four. It is absolutely amazing for the Lions. That was probably my favorite football game of the day. But going to the Chiefs and Bills, look, I am so sorry for your loss, Bills fans. And I mean that in such a sincere way, from a Toronto Maple Leaf fan, from a Blue Jays fan, from just an overall fan of sports. You've had heartbreak after heartbreak after heartbreak after heartbreak with the Kansas City Chiefs. You just can't get past them. It's like the Washington Capitals had when they had to go against Sidney Crosby and the Pittsburgh Penguins. It is so sad to see, and seeing fans cry, I can relate. It's unfortunate to see, and it came at a loss that was just so devastating. You lose a kick, you lose by a kick, a field goal that could have tied the football game and changed the whole complexity of the game. But Wynn took that ball, and the Chiefs end up getting the ball back, and they just kill down the clock. Travis Kelce decided to do Travis Kelce things. You know, he hasn't been that hot since week 11. Taylor Swift's up there. You got Jason Kelce ripping his shirt off, drinking with Bills Mafia. Absolutely unbelievable. It was a sight to see. The whole day of football was just pure action. But my favorite human being in sports right now might be Jason Kelce. Okay, he was drinking with Bills Mafia, drinking out of a ball. He got out of the club box without a shirt on, went to hold a little girl and brought her to Taylor Swift. Like, how can you not like that human being? He is. I need to have a beer with this man. Okay, I need to have just one beer and maybe some Pinty's chicken wings. If you've seen his commercial, okay, I don't even care about seeing Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. I know my wife might disagree, but Jason Kelce, the guy is the physique of a man. That guy, sexiest man alive for a reason. Okay, not just because of that man body physique, but it's because of who he is as a person. Superb. He was partying with Chiefs, partying Bills. He is having a great time. He is in retirement mode. Okay, I know he has an announcement, but he should. Okay, he's having the time of his life. Okay, despite you can't even tell he's been off 1 week with a loss and maybe not going to the Super Bowl, or maybe that's why he's having such a good time to clear his mind. But he is having a good time, and that made the game so entertaining with the camera zooming in on him. Josh Allen had such a good football game yesterday. Patrick Mahomes, such a good football game. Both teams going. The defensive side, I feel like the Bills didn't really capitalize where they could have. They did have some injuries on the field, but both teams were going back and forth with challenges. And just overall, the team that pulled away with the win, big reason for it was because they had a quarterback who found the right receiver who got hot, but it's all because it came down to a kick. So much pressure on that kick. And I just feel like the Bills didn't do proper coverage in the red zone where they could have done it. And they weren't covering Kelce on the touchdown, the second touchdown where they just let him wide open. There's a lot of defensive mishaps that the Bills could have avoided. And you come to a point of where you wonder, because the Buffalo Bills, who were my favorite at the beginning of the year to win the Super Bowl, but obviously I didn't pick them at the beginning of the playoffs. I picked the Eagles, so obviously I was wrong. But the Bills, for years, are right into that roadblock. But I don't think if you're a Bills fan, you should hold hope or lose hope yet. This is a team that will increase and will do what they can in the offseason. I'm confident in that for them, and they will have to slay the giant eventually. Every sports team has to slay their giant. The Capitals had to slay the Pittsburgh Penguins. The Toronto Maple Leafs are going to have to slay the Boston Bruins. It just comes down to that story and that narrative. It needs to happen in sports, and the Bills will have their way one day. And I think I might, for the fourth consecutive year, pick the Bills to win the Super Bowl at the beginning of next year. Packers 49ers. Look, you got to give credit to the Green Bay Packers. They were holding up in that game, but the 49ers offense was just too much. And then at the end, Jordan Love, they had them in that fourth quarter. They could have come away with that game, but Jordan Love throwing that interception, so unfortunate. So unfortunate. I feel like he could have held on to the football, marched down the field, and it could have been a whole different game at that point. But we're not Jordan Love. You're not in that predicament. You don't know what's going to happen. For a young quarterback to give the experience that he did this year, you got to think of that as a win as a Green Bay Packer fan, especially since you were a team that wasn't supposed to make the playoffs. You lose Aaron Rodgers, you probably lose a little bit of hope. You think you're retooling. Never mind retooling. You're looking at adding next year and making a very serious run with a very good young quarterback with, well, let's call it how it is, one of the best last names too in the world of sports. Love. Gotta love it. Looking at the Ravens and Texans game, that was the most boring game of the week. And it's unfortunate because I'm a CJ Stroud fan. I was pulling for the Texans in that game, but Lamar Jackson, I underestimated. I thought the Cinderella story could come out here and really play a big factor, and CJ Stroud was going to beat Lamar Jackson by a field goal or a touchdown, and it was just going to be a Cinderella story. But when Lamar Jackson got his feet under him, and that rust, I like to call it, wore off, the Ravens were just superior. That's a very good football team, and it's very, very scary. I think they might have the best all-around team that's playing currently right now. I'm just going to flat out say it. Whoever plays them in the Super Bowl is going to be in tough, and I just said it. Who I think will be likely going to the Super Bowl from that end. Going to be unbelievable. I don't have much to say more about the Texans and Ravens, just that Lamar ran the field. It was a Baltimore game through and through, and if that's how they come off a week's rest, a little bit of a week's rust, and they're all set to go, but now people say, oh, they're rested. Nah, there's that week. That delay in a week can throw off your step slightly, but they rebounded quickly, and they're going to be, I think, easily marching into the Super Bowl. Let's just say how that is. Are they going to win it? Not saying that, especially as a Steeler fan. You can't say that about the Ravens. We got to give credit where credit's due and give them respect. They are a very powerful football team. It had nothing to do with the Texans being bad. They were a second overall pick last year, and look at what they did. You got to be proud if you're a Texans fan. Got to be proud if you're a Packers fan. Take those losses, but with dignity. And, you go into next year, you add. You sped up your rebuild. You're going to be competitive, and you create something that's going to be a winning culture for the next decade, because that's what those two quarterbacks, both Love and Stroud, respectively, deserve. That's my reaction on football. We'll be talking more about it. Probably a lot of repeated words coming out of my mouth next Wednesday, but we expect EJ and Justin. And I may have a special guest who is a close friend of the show for a long time, maybe come on in the first segment. And I want to say it here as well. Obviously, the late Scott Nason, good friend of mine, co-founder of the Game Sports podcast, who passed away in September of 2022. Big Lions fan. He never got to see the Lions move on in football, and there's friends of mine that finally got to see them after 30 plus years, right? Scott did see them in the AFC Championship that time when they played Washington, but he has not seen this team get this far in over 33 years, and obviously with him no longer with us, it makes you wonder, it's obviously too bad he isn't here, but obviously someone would be smiling down because he would be absolutely pumped. And I know this podcast, I wouldn't be able to talk because of all of his excitement. So you Lions fans, take this in, enjoy it. You deserve it. And from a Steeler fan, you're who I'm rooting for to win this Super Bowl. I am supporting the Lions. I wanted a Lions-Bills finals. We're not going to get it, but I'm supporting those Lions. Now, I'm going to get into a change draft rules topic. I am now almost at my 10-minute point, so I'm going to keep this very brief, and I'm not going to confuse anybody. I just heard somebody say, well, when a player gets drafted into the National Hockey League or into a league, why don't they stay with that respective team? Why can they request a trade, Cutter Gauthier? Why don't they change the rules? Well, there's a lot of reasons why, right? There's the cap issues, there's financially, there's just fairness if you want to summarize it all up, okay? But I was discussing with a fan of the show offline, going through messages, and we discussed a potential change in the draft rules because they were reacting to the Cutter Gauthier and Drysdale comments from last week. And about when somebody gets drafted to a team, OHL, NHL, whatever league it may be, once they get drafted, they have to go there. Now, does that violate human rights? Yeah, it does. It does. But that doesn't mean you can't make a rule about it. If you get drafted by a team, you have to play your entry-level contract there. You have to play there. If you don't play it, you cannot be an active player in that league for 3 years. Yes, you have to sign an entry-level contract, but if a team drafts you, you have to play 3 years for that team or sign an entry-level contract and let it die out before you can play again and revisit signing with another team. I've also heard ways of, well, why don't you just veto the trades from being able to happen and somebody has to stay with the team for their first 10 years no matter what. I love that. I truly do. I think that'd be great if someone drafted, for example, if Connor Bedard went to Arizona instead of Chicago, but he didn't want to go to Arizona, you can't request a trade. You have to stay there for 10 years. If you don't stay there for 10 years, you can't go to any other team for 10 years. You have to play there. But now as you start saying things, you add the rules, it gets a little bit crazy. I want to know if anybody wants to provide their input on what they feel, how they can change things. I think it's just so unfortunate when somebody drafts a player, they take the time to draft, and they just don't want to play there. And obviously there's been situations from here in Sault Ste. Marie with Eric Lindros, even when he was in the National Hockey League. He was drafted somewhere, and he said, nope, I'm not going there. I want to go to this team instead, right? I want to play here. I don't want to play there. I don't want to play for this team. I want to play for this team. This team is the only team I'll go to. No, I'll go to this team. Maybe I'll go to this team, but I'm not going to this team and getting drafted to. Look, you should just be happy that you're getting drafted into the league that you're getting in. And now you can exercise your rights as much as you want to, but I think it's an absolute joke when players request a trade to go somewhere. Like, I'm sure if you grew up a Toronto Maple Leaf fan, but you got drafted by the Montreal Canadiens, which is your arch rival growing up, and you just probably couldn't stand Montreal, you're probably just happy that you got drafted, that you're going to get the chance, and that a team drafted you because they wanted you to be a part of their organization. I'm a big fan of when a team drafts you, you sign your entry-level contract. And if you sign your entry-level contract, you remain with that team for 3 years. And then after that 3 years, you can choose not to sign. And as an RFA, I like how you have to, if you don't sign, they can qualify you and you have to wait a full year. I love that rule being implemented. But I think what could be incorporated is that maybe you draft your player. They cannot be traded after being drafted. When you're drafted to that team, you have to sign with that team no matter what. You play your 3 years, and if you don't play your 3 years in that 1 year with that RFA, if you don't sign, you sit out until you become an eligible UFA. Then you can go to another team. And if you sit out, you can go play in other leagues except the National Hockey League. I love that rule. I know it would never happen. People are probably going to tell me that's stupid, that's dumb. That's totally fine. I just feel like it's a disadvantage if someone of a franchise caliber goes to a team to really change the complexity of a hockey team and maybe make the market more competitive, bring more players to that market. Because if you have Connor Bedard playing somewhere, someone's going to want to play there with Connor Bedard. They know they're going to play better, just like it is with McDavid, just like it is with McKinnon, just like it is with Matthews. Crosby when he was in Pittsburgh. That organization was in shambles when he went there. Lemieux took it over. They got Crosby. They had Malkin. They had Stahl. They started drafting, and they built around it. What if Crosby would have said, no, I want to go play in Toronto or I want to go play in Montreal? What if he said that? The whole complexity of Pittsburgh's organization changes, and it's better for the other teams. Maybe they would have gotten all these draft picks and players would have made it better, but it's all that what if game. When you draft a player, they have to stay with that team. To make it more interesting, if they're a first-round pick only. Second round to seventh round, do what you'd like. But when you're a first-round pick to a team, you have to remain with that team when they draft you. You automatically have an entry-level league min signed. $925 for the rookie automatically signed. And you can have the choice if you want to play in those 3 years or not play in those 3 years. If you don't play in those 3 years, your RFA term comes up. If you don't want to sign, you sit out that year, and then you become a UFA the next year. Let's incorporate something that's interesting that allows players to start their league where they're drafted in. Then after their 3 years are done, then you can do it. But this makes it more interesting. The NHL team that drafts you, they can trade you as long as you didn't request it. Well, how do you find out they didn't do it? Listen, if anyone requests a trade, you would know about it. Let's up that ante then a little bit. They have to play at least one season before you trade them. Wow, I'm really throwing a lot of hypotheticals out there to you, a lot of things to follow. What do you think in terms of trading players that are drafted? In my opinion, I feel like a player should stay with the team just because of morally, but also just basically stay with the team just for being drafted. Especially if you're a first-round pick, you have to stay with that team, play X amount of years before you could sign or be traded to another team. That's my thought. I was giving examples. If it was 3, wait the year. If it was 10, so many things you can pull from it. But then all this nonsense about players choosing where they want to play and whatever may come out of that will not happen. Just saying. Let me know what you think. Comment below. Now, this has been 20 minutes. I am about 5 minutes over what I want to be, so I'm going to wrap it up right now. This has been the first segment of the Game Sports Podcast. When we come back, you're going to have myself joined by Dane Hancherow and Alex Parr. We're going to have about an hour in that segment. We're going to make it a little bit of extended version for you. There's a lot of hockey topics we have to get to because we only did have one episode last week. There's a lot of content on it, but we're going to make sure we make up for it tonight by missing last week, Monday's episode. A lot of things we want to dive into there. So, and a little thing for you too, despite this little 2-second breather that I'm about to take momentarily, this segment is going to be commercial free. This segment and the second segment. If you're on the audio version, there will be no interrupted commercials. If you're on YouTube, I apologize if an ad comes on up. Nonetheless, it'll be commercial free on my end. Okay? Just so you're aware. Again, it's Game Sports Podcast powered by 91N. You're here on the first edition of the week. We talk football. We talk hockey. We got more hockey coming in the second segment. Don't go anywhere. And welcome back to the Game Sports Podcast. It's your host, David McCaig Jr., continuing to host you this evening on the Game Sports Podcast powered by 91N. That's 91 Network. This is, well, technically the top shelf segment, but ultimately it's the second segment of the show. And I am joined by the one and only. He's an Edmonton Oilers fan and Michigan fan, quite a happy fan in general, as I say those two teams. The one and only Dane Hancherow. Dane, another week, another episode, my friend. How's it going?
Lovely. I'm a little heartbroken about the Bills loss. And again, not a Bills fan, but I was really hoping for that Lions-Bills Super Bowl. But other than that, sports have been going quite well for me in the year of 2024 so far. So, Natty Championship. 13 in a row. Corey Perry's coming to town. Got another bad boy in the lineup. Let's go, baby.
He's excited, Parr. Okay, now let's go to somebody else who's also, well, he hasn't been here as long as Dane has, but he's been a part of the transition of the Game Sports Podcast. And he was a part of the first ever TV segment of the Game Sports Podcast. That is a milestone in itself. Mm-hmm. He's no longer in Sault Ste. Marie. He is quite a distance drive away of 8-9-ish hours in Ottawa, but nonetheless, he is a part of the Game Sports Podcast family, and we appreciate when he graces us with his presence. And he is, with connection to me, a fellow Toronto fan, Toronto Maple Leaf fan, and dare I say any more, the one and only Alex Parr, my friend. Another episode, another week.
Yeah, I'm glad that some of us here are happy that their sports teams are going well, but I'm more like Josh Allen in the fact that I just have to be thankful that I woke up today.
I saw that.
Yikes. And like I talked about in the first segment, I gave a little bit of a brief reaction about football leading up to our Wednesday segment, our ever known in the pocket segment's going to, I'm sure there'll be a lot of topics there. There were definitely a lot of people cheering for the Bills, and I was one of those people included, as you know. If you are, a Bills fan, as I said at the beginning as well, we are sorry for your loss, literally. But this is the hockey segment, okay, and we got a lot to get to. And in this segment, like I talked about in the opener with the agenda, this is the top shelf segment technically, per se. So we're going to be talking hockey around the horn to get it started, something that we want to talk about, bring to the table. We're also going to do a fantasy hockey topic that I kind of, set up Parr to kind of give his feedback on this and me to chime in. And I know Dane has a piece of feedback based on trades in fantasy hockey that we're going to get into. And then we're going to have our NHL Re-Draft segment. If you check out last week's episode on Wednesday last week, it wasn't Monday because we didn't have an episode on Monday, Dane and I redraft the 1980 NHL draft. You can also check that out on TikTok, social media, and make sure you comment and criticize us. We love it. You can also criticize Dane for how he looks at the camera as well. We loved that TikTok.
I'm trying to be better today. Yes, I was reading the last time and I got chewed out on TikTok. So
we love it. The NHL Redraft segment will be 1981 today, and there's some Sioux representation in that draft as well. Now, fellas, hockey around the horn. Where do I want to go first? I want to go to Parr first. Okay. I don't know if this is what you wanted to talk about. We like to follow kind of a very loose script on the Game Sports Podcast sometimes. Normally not, to be honest. It's just natural ability to talk. Yeah, tooting our own horns. But I put a topic in there for Parr that I don't know if he wants to talk about, but maybe he does. So I'll give you the floor, Parr. If you don't want to go to that topic, you choose your own.
Tee me up, Dave. How do you want to do it? How do you want to? Can you ease me into it?
Leaf fans driving you nuts?
Oh,
Are
man.
they
Fuck,
driving
they're
you
brutal.
nuts? Okay, you're a Toronto fan. I'm a Toronto fan. Okay. If you're on video, you saw me point at my jerseys. If you're on audio, sorry, that's just dead air for 2 seconds. Parr, you gave a lot of good points because, being a Toronto fan, it's an up and down mood. It's a mood swing. That I find that a good way to put it. It's like a complete mood swing. It doesn't matter what generation you cheer for, if it's now, if it's from the 2010s, if it's from the 2000s, the 1990s, which I love the 90s, and 80s back we weren't around for. But obviously there has been a Stanley Cup since 1967, as everybody sure as heck knows. The franchise has never made it past the third round in franchise history because last time they won the cup, there only was 3 rounds to win a cup. Fun fact, if you didn't know that, well, now you know. And also 1967, before more teams came into the league as well. So let's just say Leafs are cursed. Sure. Fans, though, this is the topic I want to lead Parr up to because being a Leaf fan, you get the mixed bag, but you go everywhere. When I went to Columbus, there's 3,500 plus Leaf fans in that building. You go to Vancouver, you go to Edmonton, you go to Calgary, you go to Detroit, you go to Arizona. It doesn't matter, Florida. It doesn't matter where the heck you go. Ottawa. It doesn't matter where the heck you go. Blue and white is in those stands, and not Tampa Bay Lightning. We're talking Toronto Maple Leafs colors are in those stands. It's cheering. It doesn't matter how good, how bad, how mad, how happy. Doesn't matter. We continue to cheer. But you know what? There's probably been comments, and I'm talking a little extra here, Parr, but there is fan comments in general that upset people, and we're not going to talk about fan comments in general because everyone has the right to their opinion, but you did tell me that Leaf fans are starting to get a little bit too much, and it's bothering you. I'll say it flat out. That's what you said, and it's driving you nuts. So take that away.
I don't know. It's just like I phrased it to you guys as this. It's like, we cheered for Phil Kessel to score 30 goals, and we went, holy shit, what a hockey player. And now we've got like 3 guys who are guaranteed 30 goal scorers, no problem. And it's just like nothing's ever good enough until that Stanley Cup comes. But you lose 3 games in a row to like, baddish teams, mediocre teams, couple blown losses. And it's like, I don't know, fucking hang Keefe, cut off Marner's legs, and fire Matthews into the sun. These guys suck. I saw them at a children's hospital getting in fights with the kids. These guys are pieces of shit. And it's like, it's just not that bad. Like, we've had the same core for a while. So I'm sure we've all seen that we go through some stretches. But what's crazy is all teams go through some stretches. Hey, Dane, how were the Oilers at the beginning of the year?
Bad.
How are they now?
Good.
Crazy, right? Wow, imagine that happens to one team. It could happen. Leafs fans, I hope you're sitting down to another. My light just fell off because I'm mad and I hit my table. Shut up. Shut up. If you want to start getting real upset about these things, wait until they're out of a playoff spot. And at that point, what leg do I have to stand on? Yeah, I guess the sky's falling. But the fun for me this year is just getting sucked out. Like the skill of all those NBA players in the basketball and Space Jam. I don't have it anymore. I can't. Personalities online going off, just won't shut up about the sky's falling and every article in the world. Like, I just don't have it. I had to like tune it all out. Stop going on Twitter during the game. Stop reading articles. I can't. It's just no fun. It's no fun to just be choosing to be miserable.
And you know what I'll say is that the matter of that is because fans in Toronto have an expectation, right? And
of what? Being bad?
Of being good. And I'm not.
What? That's the expectation? Leafs fans expect the Leafs to be good? Oh my fucking God. That's grand. That's really good.
So the Leafs, when they were rebuilding, there was openness about that. And the fans were still criticizing, right? Oh, they should be doing better. They should be this. They should be that. There is never no middle. There is never no satisfaction. And the reason of that being is because of the length of the same repeated narrative happening each year. And let's get real for a second. Some of those personalities, they're saying what they are because they're getting the views for it.
Yeah.
Right? We're the ones supporting them. I mean, we're by either fans or fellow Leaf fans. Doesn't matter. Hockey community supports that. And being in Toronto media, not us, but saying when you're in Toronto media, you are in the middle, the mecca of the hockey world, and everybody's going to click your post. Everyone's going to read your post. I see people share posts where like, Nylander's garbage. Nylander's not garbage.
Yeah, he signs his deal, doesn't score for a couple games, and classic. Now he doesn't care. He's got his money. Shut up. Just like, oh, I just can't, Dave. I can't. I actually, it is so draining. It is so draining.
It is. And honestly, I can understand. It sucks when you lose a hockey game. It's great to see the passion. That's one thing I'll give Leaf fans credit for. There's passion, and there's definitely dedication to a franchise. Hell yes. Okay, they're 100%, almost more than any other team, maybe except the Oilers. Obviously, this year proved that. The Habs,
different.
yeah. See, so
when we're not doing well as the.
Oh yeah, the Leafs is just broadcasted a little bit more. But
for sure.
Same shit though.
The thing is that there's a very good team in Toronto, and yes, there's always up and down. But I'm going to tell you the fact, like I told and said to listeners last week. Is this team good enough to win a Stanley Cup? Well, let me answer that for you. If you look at the paper, you can see that they'd be competitive for one. I don't want to dare I say that they would be good, but I guess I am saying yes. Are they actually good enough?
Here's the problem, Dave. Like
they're not.
I've seen an 8th seed win the cup before. I've seen Michael Lehtinen carry a team to the Stanley Cup final. I've seen some bad teams squeak into the St. Louis Blues were in last place in January and then won the cup. So sitting here bitching and whining about how bad it is that we're in a playoff spot in a super competitive division, like this is exactly what I mean, Dave. Like it's not that bad. It really isn't. Our starting goalie's not there. Some of our players aren't firing. Well, good. I don't want to be hot in December. I want to be hot in May and June.
And everybody apparently in the Sun is going to Toronto at the deadline. Hold your brakes, dude. Like, with what money? Okay, with what money? There is cap space.
There's something the negativity again. Here it is again.
What? The
negativity. You know, no money. We're not going to do this.
I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean that in a way where they're not going to. Don't expect them to go out and get. Don't expect them to go out and get a $9 million guy. Yeah, they're going to be active where they can, but they got to operate within their means. They got a budget to follow. But so
you know
what I'm saying is believe in this team. Believe in this team because it truly is a good group of players. Okay, and there's still time to right the ship in your eyes if you think they're a top team. But nonetheless, they are whatever they are. This is a team that I believe still is playoff bound, and what matters is playoff hockey.
You just said that you don't think they can win a Stanley Cup, but we should believe in them. You know what? How about we go back to the line of Nick Spalling, Byron Frazee, and P.A. Parenteau? I think that's what this fan base truly wants, because then they'd have a lot less shit to bitch about. That's for sure.
That's the only Leaf game I ever went to was that was like that year.
Like before Matthews?
Matthews came there.
And I did say that they're not good enough for a cup, but you also just said an 8th team can win it. So even though they may not be good enough, doesn't mean that they won't win it. I'm just saying that, nonetheless, the fans, I can agree more, Parr. The negativity is being flushed a lot extra, it seems. And yes, because of expectations, but it is pretty much a good way to put it, exhausting to see even as a fan.
This team makes me want to smoke, and I've never. This team just makes me want to chain smoke.
It's exhausting. Don't start smoking. Don't start smoking. Next point, I want to go to Dane for this one. It's relative. Corey Perry. We talked about briefly about the Edmonton Oilers. Obviously, they're hot right now. They're bringing in somebody who is obviously been to the Cup final multiple times, no matter how many times he's won it or not. He's a pest. He's somebody who will drive the net. Is he going to get you 50 goals in the next 40 games? Whatever. Nope, he's not going to do that. But he is a guy that I truly think is a good ad for the Oilers. But let's give it to the guy who watches the Oilers every night, watches every Oiler analytic that I'm sure that he can, to give his reaction. Dane, what do you think about Corey Perry? Why do you think they added Corey Perry? Floor is yours.
I'll say like the one thing that, it's like where our team's buzzing right now. Do you really want to mess with the chemistry? That might be the only, con to the situation. I think there's lots of pros with it. I mean, the guy has won gold medals for Team Canada, Memorial Cups, Stanley Cup, just won. Yes, he has lost a couple Stanley Cup finals in a row in consecutive years, and whatever. We can take that as what it is.
Was it 3 years?
What's that?
Never mind. Keep going. I interrupted.
I'm just saying, I like that he's a player that I think can slot up and down the lineup. He can be a pest when he needs to. I mean, Edmonton has one of the most dangerous power plays in the NHL, maybe in the most dangerous in the history of the NHL. Draw some penalties. I think you throw him with McDavid or Draisaitl. I mean, yeah, he's not the same player he used to be. He's old, right? But I think he still has that ability to get in front of the net, get into those dirty areas, piss other people off. He's just kind of one of those guys right now later in his career where he's kind of switched his game a little bit. He's always kind of been like that, but I just think the experience, the leadership, and just his ability to, he can play on the fourth line, he can play on the third line, he can play on the second line, he can play on the first line, right? You can go wherever you need him. He's one of only two players on our team that's actually even played in a cup final, if I'm not mistaken. Matthias Ekholm and Corey Perry would be the only two. And I think, I listened to Ken Holland in his the press conference with Corey Perry today. I think Ken Holland asked the right people the right questions to kind of see what happened, and it's still not out there. Like, we can, assume whatever we want. I think he got drunk in front of management at a team convention kind of thing and probably said some things that he probably shouldn't have said, and we might never know what actually happened, right? So I don't think this signing happens without Connor McDavid and Draisaitl and the leadership of the Oilers blessing. I don't think it happens without ownership's blessing. I don't think it happens without management's blessing, right? So I think there was a lot of background checks with what happened in Chicago, and you know what, made sure that this move was good for the team. I think a guy that has size, has some grit, and he still has some talent. Like, he was doing pretty well in Chicago. Mind you, playing top line minutes, right, on a really bad team with Connor Bedard, but I like the move. Again, the timing of it with just, the 13-game winning streak, you don't really want to mess up with that flow right now, but there's still half the season left. We're going to lose a game eventually, so we're not looking at the short term. We're looking at more of the long term, and mostly his playoff pedigree. I'm trying to think if the man's even missed a playoff, and how many playoffs has he not played in his career, right? So he's batting pretty close to 1,000 if I had the back check on that. So it's just good experience, a guy that's showing that he has the ability to win the big games, right? So I like the move. We'll see what happens with it. Again, there's the Chicago thing. So, and again, Edmonton being a media hotbed, they pounded him with questions today, and he did very well answering ones he could and answering ones that he couldn't. And we'll see what happens. He'll definitely be in the lineup before a 9-day break coming up here. So I think he has 2 games. We have 2 games before that happens against Chicago and the Columbus Blue Jackets.
And Dave,
there's no way he plays in front of.
I would say likely will be tomorrow night in Columbus.
He will not play against Chicago.
We're back in the Chicago game, so
there's no way.
Guys,
no way he's playing against Chicago.
The Oilers coach has already said he wants him to practice with the team for at least a week before he even thinks about putting him in any game. So we don't have to worry about it.
Holland are definitely on a different page then. So
yeah. There's no dinner reservations in Chicago with Corey Perry and a lucky lady anytime soon.
So he might not travel with the team on that portion of the road trip.
He's not playing in Chicago this year. I'm telling you right now, there's not a minute that guy's playing a minute in Chicago. There's no chance. I don't know how many times the Oilers play Chicago the rest of this year, probably 2 or 3 times. There's no way that he plays a minute. I don't think so.
Again, we don't know what happens.
We don't. And I'm not saying because I don't think it's that happened. I just feel
I hope it is.
It's an organizational thing, right? Nonetheless.
Well, he was asked if he was going to challenge the termination of his contract, and he had no comment on that. So maybe there's two sides of the story here, right?
Or three.
So,
Or three.
and I guess everything that he's done in the last 2 months to get help for his substance abuse or whatever the deal was, he's gone the extra mile to get the help. And like I said, we'll see what happens. But besides, I would say the one thing I like about this is we haven't had to give up any draft picks for him, right? Say that's a deadline acquisition that you make. I mean, Corey Perry's not the player that he is, but the way that trades are going at the deadline right now, you're probably looking at a second, third round pick for Corey Perry, and you never know what you might get out of that at the end of the day. So in a way, it's convenient.
What was the money attached to it? Is that out yet?
It's league minimum. And a bunch of bonuses to fit under the cap.
I would love to see Corey Perry on a line with Evander Kane. I think that'd be just an absolute.
Christ.
I don't know who would play center on that line. I'm trying to think.
In my head, we're a rehab center in Edmonton. Cassian, Kaner, Perry, bring them all in. We fix the bad boys and turn them into good boys.
I was going to say, put me in the middle of Perry and Kane? God damn, that's a good night. Hopefully we play in Vegas.
All you need is Ryan Reeves. You want Ryan Reeves in Edmonton?
I don't want Ryan Reeves. No. Nobody wants Ryan Reeves.
Think of it this way. Corey Perry's making less than Ryan Reeves, but he wasn't on Chicago.
Yeah, well, Corey Perry's also only on a 1-year deal. Ryan Reeves is raking in the cash. Just dump trucks loading him up as he's sitting on his beach chair on Robidaw Island.
1 point.
Yeah. For 3 years.
3 years.
For a fighter.
Yeah, I know, dude.
Brad.
Oh my God.
Brad. Next topic. Patrick Waugh. Wow. Easy for me to say as I go a little higher in my voice.
Patrick
Roy Waugh. That's Patrick Waugh. The guy who got traded, who asked for a trade in the middle of a hockey game. Unbelievable. That story. And he goes and wins a cup in Colorado. They can't get any better. That's just a great story. And also the goalie who did this with his head all the time when he played in net. And he also one time showed the glove up in the air against Detroit, but he didn't have the puck, and Draper scored the goal. Patrick Waugh, one of the best goalies of all time. It goes without saying. When he started coaching in Quebec, I know somebody who actually had him in Quebec, and he said he was such a I don't want to use the word strict, but he was someone who redeemed that, had that respect when he walked in the room, and he expected that respect. Pretty much, to put a good way put it. If you watch his clip with the Islanders when he was at the first practice, he wasn't taking any shit. He was yelling at the players, saying how it is, clean shaven, like Lou Lamoriello likes it. If you're a Devil fan or a Toronto fan, you know how that is, and now an Islander fan. But the Patrick Waugh saga begins in New York, and it begins with a win. And it kind of was a little bit of a surprising move, a little bit, because obviously Lane Lambert it wasn't going well with the Island. Obviously, they weren't performing to what they expected to. But you don't really hear a lot about the Long Island coach, the Islanders coach. You're hearing about Toronto, you're hearing about Edmonton, you're hearing about all these other teams, and slightly comes in Lou Lamoriello, slithers in, okay, and he grabs a very good available coach. I'm going to tell you right now, Patrick Waugh is somebody who is a good coach. He actually is one of the first coaches to ever pull a goalie with 7 minutes left being down 2 goals. I don't know if you remember that when he was coaching. But nonetheless, he is somebody who's a risk taker. He knows what he's talking about. He's learned from good coaches, he says. He obviously had high praise for a lot of coaches that he's had. But I think that's a good move for the Islanders. I don't know whoever wants to take the reins from there, but I think it's something that the Islanders, I'm not a fan of your fans. If you're a New York Islander fan, Sean Avery quoted you the best. I'm not going to quote Sean Avery for anything, but because I don't want to say it on this podcast to sound like an absolute asshole. But I'll leave that point to Avery, but he was right. The Islanders fans, besides all that, you got a very good coach. You got a very good coach. Whoever wants to take the reins.
Yeah, I think the big 3-2 dub over the Dallas Stars. In his debut there. Good start for the Islanders. I think the big question is what's taking them so long to get back to the show? I mean, 2 Memorial Cups, which is not an easy feat to win 1, never mind 2 with the Quebec Ramparts. I think he made the playoffs 13 out of 14 years with the Ramparts. He's a former Jack Adams winner in the NHL with the Colorado Avalanche.
Good point.
one of the best goalies of all time. Like, he has the pedigree, right? So I like the move by the Islanders. Again, I think, we've been for years, right? When's Patty coming back to the NHL to coach? And maybe it was him waiting for the right team, the right moment kind of thing. Maybe he was just having a good time back home in Quebec there. Who knows? But the Islanders got him. I think the Islanders, they're not far removed from back-to-back Eastern Conference Finals. Snuck into the playoffs last year after, I don't know, was it last year when they had to play like 20 games on the road to start the year because the rink wasn't ready, or was that 2 years ago?
It was 2 years ago.
Regardless, I think the Islanders have a good team. Sorokin's kind of been a little bit off. Patrick Waugh coming in, one of the best goalies ever. See if if Sorokin, arguably maybe the best goalie in the NHL, depending on the year that you're looking at, kind of regains his form there. And I like the move by the Islanders. They're a team that's kind of been on a very streaky this year. Big winning streak, big losing streak, big winning streak. Back to a big winning or losing streak, and now they've got another win with Patrick Waugh there. So, and they're still very, very much in the mix. So, like the deal by the Islanders.
So, Parr, coaching moves can continue to happen at before the halfway point, or just now at the halfway point. Obviously, the Oilers make a move.
Don't go where I think you're going. Don't,
nope.
Dave. For the love of Christ, I swear to God, I swear to God, Dave.
Wait. I'm not going there. I'm going somewhere else. Obviously, Ottawa made a move. You're in Ottawa. Okay, they with Smith out, Martin, and we've talked about Jacques Martin, so we don't have to really beat that topic up again. So, but obviously, I think that wasn't a surprise that happened. It's actually probably surprising that he wasn't done last year. But you look at the Edmonton Oilers, sort of a surprise because of their start, right? If they didn't have the start that they did, I'm sure Woodcroft would still be the coach of the Oilers, right? Except Knobloch. And then obviously Knobloch has a look-alike in Seattle, apparently, that we determined. But not jokes aside, coaches, the moves have happened. St. Louis relieved their coach. I'm going to throw it out there as a general thing. Is this a year where we're seeing more coaches and teams actually just thinking that a coaching change is going to flip around their season? I think we're seeing that a lot more this year than we have in previous years, or maybe I'm just noticing it more this year. And I'm not going to ask the question to you because you told me to hold it with if you think any other changes are going to happen in the NHL, because I think you're going to think that I'm asking.
You really want to. You really want to ask me. Really want to ask me after the opening of this. I don't think Sheldon Keefe is going anywhere. I think he will be here all year. And I think if you wanted to fire him, you should have did it in the offseason. But it's too late, and they're not going to change it now.
Just gave him an extension too, so that doesn't matter. But besides the point,
that doesn't matter.
Coaching moves have happened a bit more this year, and it's actually worked out for teams. Out of the teams that made the coaching changes, Parr, that we've discussed, which one came to you as the most surprising?
Easily the Edmonton Oilers. Easily, not even close. I think Dane would agree too. I mean, they're a good team.
Big Jay Woodcroft guy, and it broke my heart that our team was playing as bad as they were, and I knew it was coming. I mean, obviously things turned around for us, but yeah.
Dane, at the same time, do you really think that things would be that different if he was still the coach? This could have just been as easily possible if you just waited out. Connor's not that bad.
Paul Coffey is what fixed that team this year, I think, a little bit. Maybe that's a stretch. But defensively, the team's improved, right? That's what I know. It's defensively that team's improved. You got Cody Ceci playing better, and I'm a big Cody Ceci hater. Everybody knows that, okay? But he's actually playing quite well, and defensive systems have picked up. I think their PK's over 10% better. I could be wrong about that, too. Dane could probably get that information quicker than I can.
The PK's been unreal. The power play, for whatever reason, has kind of faded away on their
Nothing against Knobloch,
which is scary for other teams, because if that starts going again, then really
nothing against Knobloch, man. But Paul Coffey coming, I think, has been the mastermind of it all. 100%. 100%.
He made a statement that I don't know if it's true or not, but basically is this is what I want you guys to do, and if you don't do it, we'll find somebody else.
PMP 7,000 Sherwood was probably on that ice, cracking skulls. I'll tell you right now, that guy is a future head coach in the NHL. He is. I'll flat out tell you.
I think the result, I don't know if he wants it. I know he's always been part of the Oilers organization, but there was some hesitancy from him to actually get into the coaching game, and desperation calls for desperate measures. And yeah, it's turned out great, but I'm not going to say that Paul Coffey and the defense is the only thing that's changed. It's the whole team. Stuart Skinner is playing unbelievable right now. High danger scoring chances. His save percentage is far and above any goalie in the league in his last 19 games. He's 17-2 with like a .938 save percentage. I mean, fact check me. It's close to that. But it's just the team buying in, right? Playing a team game. I mean, Connor McDavid's pretty happy only getting 1 point a game right now and winning hockey games. And the things that he's done on this winning streak, and even to start the season, really, he's a grinder now. He's getting dirty in the corners. Ekholm gets charged by Yanni Gourde in that Seattle game. Who's the first guy in the scrum? Connor gets in there, gives Yanni a little, punch to the face there. I mean, the boys are going to rally around that, right? And he's hitting, he's getting into the dirty areas. He's playing the way that we need to win. And you know what? 153 points on a season looks sexy on paper. I'd rather Connor McDavid score 110 points this year and play the way that he's playing right now on both sides of the puck. And it's just the whole team buying in. And, you get a couple wins together, the team starts feeling good, that confidence is back, and that swagger's back, right? And we're also getting depth scoring from Sam Gagner's averaging half a point per game right now. Like, he has, 11 points in 20 games this year, playing, fucking 7 minutes a game. Like, Warren Fogle, Ryan McLeod have finally, kind of gotten their untapped potentials. Everything's going well right now. So, I mean,
the coaches help that.
You can say Paul Coffey, you can say Knobloch, you can say it's everything in the organization right now. So,
I just don't know if a team as good as Edmonton, does a coach change that much to a team that good that has already won a bunch of times?
Well, I don't know. Edmonton needs a wake-up call. It needs a new coach every fucking year and a half, which drives me nuts.
But do they? Or is it...
I still feel like whatever team, whether it's Ottawa or, Toronto, I keep telling a lot of my good buddies that are Ottawa fans, you need to get an actual coach in there, and nothing against,
Jacques Martin
there,
Jacques Martin.
Jacques Martin, going back to the early 2000s coaching Ottawa. Get him, get Craig Berube, one of those guys in Ottawa. But I think anybody that ends up getting Jake Woodcroft, I think he's an absolutely awesome coach. It's just unfortunate that the team was playing the way that they were. And again, right, when you have that high expectations on a team like Toronto or Edmonton, that it's win now right now, the media, the fan base, you feel that pressure, and what do? You got to make a change, right? Whether it's a trade, a coaching change, a general manager change, and you know what? Sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. And right now, to say that Knobloch and Paul Coffey are the reason that this team is doing as well as they are, no, the team has always had that ability to be this team. It just something needed to happen for the change, and it's working so far, but it sucks that Jay Woodcroft ended up being the collateral damage from a team that was highly underperforming, and I don't think it was really mainly coaching that was the issue at Edmonton.
Dave McCaig here with Dane Hancherow, Alex Parr with the Game Sports Podcast, our second segment of the show, technically the top shelf segment. Now, we got what I'm going to get through here because we have two topics we're going to get into. We were going to discuss Canadian team weaknesses and highlight one area of the weaknesses, but you know what? We're going to table that for either next week or even closer to the deadline. Might make more sense to table that for closer to the deadline, perhaps, depending on what Canadian team that you're talking about. So we're going to talk about fantasy hockey, and then we're going to get into our NHL Re-Draft before we close out tonight's show. And fantasy hockey, let me explain why this topic is getting pulled. This is something that Dane, Alex, and I talked about on our chat, on Facebook chats, which we have, because we have a Facebook chat for EASHL reasons. If you're interested to play us, let us know. Comment below.
We don't play anymore. Don't listen to Dave. He doesn't show up anymore. He's too busy for us.
Okay. The fantasy hockey is something Parr and I play together in. Dane and I aren't.
What a log jam, eh, Dave? Have you seen the standings?
Yes, I have. And actually, did you
7
know
teams tied at 7 and 8. Spots 4 through 11 are tied.
did everybody know that
Your
I was
fantasy
0
league?
and 6?
Yeah.
I was 0 and 6. I'm now 7 and 8. I am
Sounds
hot.
like there's a lot of mediocrity
I'm hot.
going on in your league.
Yeah, Shoop's running away with the league. He just took his first loss in forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 1, 2, 3, and 4, are all their own. And then 5 through 11 are all 7 and 8. Top 8 make the playoffs.
I love
Love
that.
That's it, yeah.
Listen, everybody, if you're paying to play in the league, try. I've been on a 9-week grind, and I'm 7 and 2. So I'll take that fucking grind in 9 weeks. I was discarded. Parr, everyone thought this year was done, and I said, okay, I'm done. Okay, I'm not done. Not done. I'm coming for that. Coming for that money and coming for that. I'm doing the belt right here. We don't have a belt in the league, but it's coming. But we're talking fantasy. We're talking not fantasy football. Sorry, I'm so used to saying that. Fantasy hockey. And the topic that got brought up in our chat was dumb trades. And now, before Dane gets going, I'm going to bring up an example. 2 examples. One short one, maybe a bit more brief on another one. But I got offered a trade from a certain player, GM, in the league, and the trade was okay. It's one of those trades where you look at the trade and you say, I must have idiot written across my fucking forehead. Okay. Look, I did a purpose counter offer that was insulting because I wanted to stop getting trade offers, and it's worked for 2 weeks. It's been nice and pleasant to stop getting offers for trades. I turned down one bad one. I think I should maybe accept it too, but that's 1 out of 12. Besides the points, I pull that aside. There's trades that happens in leagues that just happen, right? And then there's trades where you're in a league that can get vetoed. They can get canceled. They can get stopped if people don't think it's a good trade. So what happens in our fantasy league, mine and Parr, is that a trade happens. The league has, I think, 3 days, something like that, to veto the trade, meaning that they can reject the trade because they think it's unfair. For example, if I
just sent you a trade, by the way.
That's great. I'll refuse it later. If Ilya Samsonov for Connor McDavid, for example, okay, just gonna throw out a number. No. Just no. That's just absolute nonsense. Okay, just to ensure that there's no cheating. Now let's go to the other person in this call, or on the show, or in this segment, Dane Hancherow. He's in a league where he traded, and he'll correct me when he gets able to talk about it. He traded for Connor McDavid, and he traded Vincent Trocheck and give me the name,
Reinhart.
Sam Reinhart.
Like, are you fucking kidding me, man?
And the justification was that Vincent Trocheck, good year in fantasy.
He's an all-star.
Yeah, and Sam Reinhart is too. That 30-some goals, but
All-stars for one.
yeah, but Connor McDavid.
Oh yeah, fucking Nick Suzuki's an all-star too. Fuck off.
So Connor McDavid gets traded in Dane's fantasy league for Vincent Trocheck and Sam Reinhart, depending on which way you grade points. I know in our league that would have gotten vetoed. I feel like it likely.
No vetoes in our league. No vetoes in our league.
I thought you said we had vetoes.
No, we don't. Absolutely not. We do not have vetoes. There shouldn't be a guy getting punished for being a better GM than another guy, which is absolutely
a vote against. I thought. Okay, so I retract everything I said the last 5 minutes. So in our league, we don't have vetoes.
There's a vote against, but it's not allowed. Like that, we will make sure that trade goes through.
Oh, okay. Well, there's a vote against. So let me go back to what I was saying about veto trades. We don't veto in our league, okay? But talking veto trades, that's the point of this 3-minute wind up to it. Vetoing trades. Should it happen in fantasy hockey or should it not happen in fantasy hockey? Parr, go first, then we'll go to Dane.
Absolutely not. I made probably the best trade I think I've ever made in my entire life last season, and it got vetoed just because the entire league thought I was the guy getting fleeced. I couldn't believe it. I was like, this is so far and away in my favor. I was getting Linus Allmark from last year. I was getting Josh Morrissey. I'm like, those guys could both win their individual position awards, and it got vetoed because people thought I was giving up too much. I couldn't believe it. So I had to dumb the trade down a little bit and send it back through, which was stupid. Why Well, okay, if you guys think this trade is so bad, let me deal with the consequences of it. I don't understand. Like, I was trading with a guy in a playoff spot. I was in a playoff spot. It's not like the last place team's giving second or first place their best players. Well, I don't understand why you would be able to veto that. That's so dumb, in my opinion.
So you say veto trades off. Have the
Oh,
integrity.
God. Yeah, if you make a bad trade, live with it. Unless it is so obviously you're cheating. The last place team is giving up their best players for one of the worst players on the best team. Like something like that.
So you say we should have vetoes then because of that.
I'm saying if you play with guys that are actually like they respect themselves and like have any integrity at all, that's not a conversation you're even having. So no vetoes.
Dane.
Yeah, so like I run my league and I have a group chat with the guys. Believe me, if there was a bunch of people throwing their arms up about this deal, then yes, I would personally make sure the trade did not happen. Draisaitl went for spare parts earlier in the year this year.
But what is the trade that would tip you off to be like, I gotta cancel it?
Obvious cheating where a guy is in last place and has given up on his team and he trades guys that are good for nothing and then doesn't continue to even update his roster. Then there's that. Bad trades happen in the NHL. Bad trades happen in real life. It's a guy that's team was struggling a little bit, wanted to shake it up. We made a bunch of different exchanges, didn't work out. I said Trocheck and Reinhart. Reinhart is a top 10 fantasy player or top 15 fantasy player right now. And to my point, I lost this week with Connor McDavid, whereas the guy that I made the trade with won his week.
Trocheck's nasty.
Like 3 weeks, 4 weeks, right? So Connor McDavid got me 2 assists this week and whatever, a couple shots, maybe 1 power play point, if that. Didn't have a great week. And the Edmonton Oilers are a defensive team now. I could very well, fantasy-wise, maybe lose this trade when it comes down to it. So I think as long as your league has integrity and everybody's on board with it and you're very much allowed to voice your opinion, but I'm going to be the guy that decides it because of like Parr's case. If it's a situation where I see like if it's not completely obvious cheating or completely obviously lopsided, then yeah. And if everybody's raising arms about it, then sure, I will vote it down. But I am not going to let everybody who's kind of in the mix, like maybe a guy that's in second or third and the guy above him or just behind him makes a trade that he thinks is going to benefit his team, whether it's fair or not, votes it down. Fuck that. Fuck that.
Yeah, absolutely.
All the guys I play with have been playing fantasy hockey for a very long time. It's a $50 league. You're an adult. Make your own choices. But the fact that we have, like, imagine the NHL did that, there would be nothing that would happen. And if you have a league that you play in that people are voting for trades, it turns into a boring league. And we have trades that happen all the time in my league. And it is fun. So you want to play in a fucking kids league? Go play in a kids league. This is big boys league. That's what I have to say about it.
Damn.
And again, I lost this week with my boy, Connor McDavid, because he only accumulated me 2 assists.
Trocheck didn't play that good last week. I think you probably would have still lost.
Well, Reinhart did, so.
Whatever. I don't even want to get into it.
But it's not just goals and assists. Like, I mean, I don't do penalty minutes because I think penalty minutes is the dumbest fucking fantasy stat going. I'm not picking grinders that, like, when Milan Lucic is a top 10 fantasy guy because he just racks up penalty minutes and gets like 45 points a year and a bunch of hits, I don't like that. I want to actually pick players, in the first round, in the second round, and the third round that are actually good hockey players. Milan Lucic isn't a good hockey player, and I hope he never plays another hockey game ever again.
He won't.
Wow. Jesus
he will not. He will never play another hockey game again, I don't think.
But, don't be part of a fantasy league. If you think there's shenanigans going on that you don't agree with, then don't be part of it. I've had the same guys in the same league for 5 years now. And deals all over the place, makes it a lot more fun. And I'm the guy that decides it. And nobody has, the owners of the teams have not decided that they want a new commissioner yet. So I would love if somebody else taken over because I hate running fantasy leagues, but I've always been that guy. And like I said, like a lot of guys, when I made that trade, were like, "Oh, I should have made a deal with Gil because they probably could have offered something better. They didn't."
Well,
and now
Dane,
everywhere.
Dane, I'm going to run a scenario past you, and you tell me if this would raise your alarms as a commissioner of your league. Okay? Guy trades Sam Reinhart and Vincent Trocheck for Connor McDavid, and the Connor McDavid's going to the commissioner of the league's team. Would that raise any alarms for you?
Sure, but I have a bunch.
Whoa!
But it depends the situation and the setting that you're in. I have 9 other guys in the league that are all aware that I made that trade, and none of them have an issue with it. And that's the integrity that I uphold.
Well,
if there is people flailing their arms about it, then
sounds like they're scared.
Consideration on the trade, but nobody is upset with it.
So yeah,
they're like
sounds like they're scared of their dictator commissioner.
Okay, if you look at it and you take the names away from it, trading the 12th ranked player and the 33rd ranked player for the 10th ranked player without the names is a good deal. And Connor McDavid probably isn't going to score 153 points this year.
Watch, he goes off at the All-Star break, 5 points a game. The guy went on a 30-point in 10-game tear when the Oilers started getting hot. You know, that guy can get hot at any time. The wheel is ran.
We are hot right now.
Yeah, the Oilers are hot because they are getting that depth scoring. That's probably why Connor's only going to get 120 points if they actually get depth scoring. But if
if Trocheck gets 80 points and Sam Reinhart gets 100 points and Connor McDavid gets 115 to 120 points, how is that deal lopsided?
I know which one of those players I want to bet on to get 100 points, though. Yeah, and it's not going to be Sam Reinhart with a career high of 82. That's for damn sure.
It's not bad. That's still a good total.
Yeah, okay. Let's make that trade then. I'll give you Sam Reinhart and Vincent Trocheck. You give me Connor McDavid. Perfect.
Not a chance.
Exactly.
If I have Connor McDavid, he's my untradeable. I'm never trading Connor McDavid. But
when you're in if you have Connor McDavid and you're in last place.
Yeah, Vincent Trocheck with 64 points.
What's that?
64 points career high. Sorry. Oh,
what?
75. Sorry. 75.
The trade is going to be determined based on when the trade happened until the end of the season. That's where you're going to know who won the trade and who didn't win the trade. And think of it this way. I don't know who you picked up after, because if you traded 2 for 1, who'd you pick up off the waiver wire?
Marchment from fucking the Dallas Stars.
Oh, good hitter, good grinder, gets some points.
Okay,
nonetheless, hopefully you got penalty minutes.
101 ranked guy in fantasy.
Yeah. But again, to all you fantasy league owners, I'll say my opinion quick. I believe in vetoing trades, but with appropriate reason. I believe in that. Let the trade happen, but if you see Connor McDavid going for Ilya Samsonov, as long as there could be people voicing their opinion to veto that at that point, saying, hey, why the fuck is this happening? Okay. But if somebody wants to trade Connor McDavid for Vincent Trocheck and Sam Reinhart and everybody thinks that that's a good trade except one guy, okay, look at that. It's a good trade. You know, if somebody wants to trade Draisaitl for Connor McDavid straight up, let that happen. Good hockey trade. I'm not saying that is. I'm just giving an example. So ultimately, my point is, as long as there's an ability to push back against certain trades that happen, because there was actually one league that I heard of where somebody made a trade and it doesn't get the alert. The trade just happens without an alert in the league, unless you go into the transactions and actually look about a trade that was happening. So there was somebody making moves. I'm not going to say names of people that don't know. I'm going to talk about them on radio or on podcast. Somebody got Sidney Crosby at the time. They got Evgeny Malkin from the same guy, and they gave up trash. I think Brandon Prust, he's a friend of the show. I shouldn't say that. I'm not saying that he's trash, but this league was about points. And Brandon Prust, this guy had him because he thought the league was a hit league. I don't know. Long story short, he got Crosby and Malkin for Prust and a couple pieces of other pieces of salami, basically. Okay, so
that is significantly different than this.
It is, but that's why I think you got to have that alert in there. You got to have the ability to voice your opinion to make sure that a trade, that shit isn't happening. Veto, vote against, voice your opinion, whatever it is, as long as there's something in place that allows, even despite how much integrity that you trust in your friends or your group, you got to have that, because sometimes people get greedy with money. Okay, that's all I'm saying, especially when it comes down to money.
Oh, I don't play fantasy for money. I play fantasy to swing my big dick.
All right, let's think of the trade. Now, let's say the trade. Alex Parr offered me a trade, Evan Rodriguez for Kyle Connor and Jack Hughes.
Oh, yeah, pull the trigger on that one, yeah.
Evan Rodriguez plays 3 different positions and has 4 games this week. So
that's a good way to.
Yeah, I don't do positions. I do 10 forwards, 4.
Jack Hughes is injured right now. What are you going to do with Jack Hughes? I know what I'm going to do with Evan Rodriguez. Get 4 games worth of points. Play him anywhere I want, so I don't have to worry about if I've got a spot for him or not. I know you've got a spot for Jack Hughes, warming up the fucking seat on IR right now. So I mean,
he's been there a lot this year. He's been there a couple times.
And sometimes having 2 usable players instead of 1. Like, there's a lot of guys that are dropping, 3 guys in and out of their rosters every week, right? And we have a limited waiver wire, 4 moves a week and we only have 3 bench players and 4 moves a week, because then you have guys like Eichel's league, unlimited everything. We have 58 bench players, and then you can just. So I last year I came second. I was really into it. This year I just gave up, because unless you're on your phone every second bringing in a guy, I'm not getting paid to be an actual NHL GM, so I hate leagues like that.
That I've never heard of a league like that before.
Pretty much making sure
I think realistically 10 bench players that every team has. It's insane. It's a mess.
Funny.
Love you.
And I just rejected your trade, Parr. Thanks for the offer.
What? Okay, well, wait. You know what? When you come knocking on my door to try to pull that trigger again, no chance. You're going to have to sweeten the pot for me.
Love it. Connor McDavid for Vincent Trocheck.
Fuck, man.
Now, here we go, fellas. We're going to get to the final topic, fantasy hockey. Tell us about your league. Tell us what you think. Veto trades, don't veto trades. Is your league full of integrity, or is it full of people who just want to try to get rid of people when they're in last to try to get their buddy the money? Let us know. We want to talk about veto trades because my heart was towards just ensuring the integrity's there, but it seems like these two, they were part of good leagues. Maybe I'm the one with the bad experiences. The NHL Re-Draft segment is now here to conclude the show. And just to remind everybody, last week, as I mentioned, we redrafted the 1980 NHL draft. Just to remind everybody at the end of each show, starting from 1980, not from 1963, from when the draft started, from 1980 up until present, Parr, Dane, and I, and whoever's here for that episode, that particular segment, will be taking part of doing the redraft for that respective year. And on this episode, we're going to be redrafting the 1981 NHL entry draft. Now, top 5, we're not doing 10, 15, 20. We're not doing a whole round. We're just going to redraft the top 5 based on what we know today for those players. There's my reminder for you. I'm only going to give it to you a couple more times until we get into our flow of it. And I'm going to go first, the person who wasn't here last week. He's going to set the tone. He's going to set the energy. He's going to get to that podium, and he's going to get us pumped and give us his top 5 picks in the 1981, if he had to do a redraft, NHL draft. Go, Parr.
Easiest pick ever. Big homer pick, too. Don't care. 4th all-time in points in the NHL. Give me Ron Francis.
Right?
Yeah. Am I doing all 5? Am I going all 5?
All 5. You name your 5.
Okay. Number 2, I want Chris Chelios. I want a guy with some longevity. I want the legs to last me a long time. This is an investment.
You might have different lists this time.
You guys had the same lists last time?
No, sort of.
Pretty close.
Then I went with a guy who can win you a cup or 2. Grant Fuhr.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. I love it.
Yeah. You guys didn't pick Andy Moog last time? That I couldn't believe it. The disrespect. 372 wins in his career. You disrespect him. But Grant Fuhr? Are you kidding me? You can't disrespect that legend. How many cups does he have? I don't even know. He'll never go without a drink in his house. That's for sure.
Up to Grant Fuhr.
Al McInnes was number 4 for me because my number 5 picked Dale Hawerchuk. Just not going to cut it for me. I looked, no cup.
It's a brutal take.
Okay, well, go ahead and take Dale Hawerchuk number 1 and try to explain to me how a non-Stanley Cup winner is your first pick.
Yeah, you played for the fucking Jets. That's why.
Yikes.
That's awful.
Parr, you say who goes next. I'll give you the reins.
Yeah, well, Dane's got something brewing over here, so come on.
Yeah, I got number 1, Dale Hawerchuk.
Terrible.
Career games, 1,409 points. I think the what if he actually had a cast around him to be good. And I actually picked some brains of some older gentlemen that were actually around in that era. And they said, for pure talent-wise, Dale Hawerchuk is arguably one of the most underrated players in the NHL. And I think if he went to the right team in the right situation, he would be hoisting multiple Stanley Cups. Number 2, we got our hometown guy, Ronnie Franchise, second all-time in assists. Can't go wrong with that. You could definitely flip-flop 1 and 2 with that situation. But if we're just purely speaking about who's the better player, I think that's a very debatable. Al MacInnis, one of the best slap shots of all time at number 3. Broke glass with wooden sticks. Love it. Number 4, Grant Fuhr. Guy has 47 assists, which is crazy for a goalie. 120 penalty minutes. A bunch of nose beers for a good portion of his early career.
Yikes.
5 Stanley Cups, 1 Vezina, 1 Jennings. His regular season stats aren't the sexiest, but if we look at his playoff numbers, 92.50 for wins and losses, 2.92 goals against, and an 8.98 save percentage. I know being below 900 in this day's NHL is not good, but back then actually pretty good numbers. So I got Grant Fuhr at 4, and then Mr. Chelios, who played for 96 career seasons, and I'm surprised he's still not playing. So I want to give a couple special shout-outs to Mike Vernon and John Van Riesbroek for goalies who arguably in a better scenario, in a better situation, you could argue the fact that are actually better goalies than Grant Fuhr, but do not have 5 Stanley Cups and all the other things that Grant Fuhr has. Same as why I have Dale Hawerchuk at number 1, because I think if he would have went to a team like the Pittsburgh Penguins and played with Martin Lemieux and Yager, what could have been. So
Yager, best flow ever. Yager. Okay, wow. We have different picks. I love it. This is good. Last week, Dan and I were similar. I guess I should say last year, because Dan and I did 1980, and we were back in time in our little time capsule. And we went back and we grew mullets and had suits, and we were drafting our team. So I'm going to do it the same way I did last week, and I'm going to name it each team.
Hair?
Make it, long mullet hair I said we had last week. Because we were living.
I need to come. I'm coming.
That's wild. Now, going to make it like I did last week, going to wind it up. With the first overall pick, the Winnipeg Jets, be proud to select from Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, Ron Francis.
The right choice.
Pretty obvious. Hopping down the lineup with best playmakers of all time. He's a leader. He's had success on the ice as well. He would have definitely duplicated that success, I feel, in Winnipeg as well. The second overall pick, the Los Angeles Kings are proud to select defenseman Al MacInnis. I'm going to say Al MacInnis defensemen are very coveted by, and Al MacInnis was one of the best defensemen to play the game. I'm a big fan of Al MacInnis. As Dane said, he broke glass with his PMP Sherwood 7000. Don't quote me. I don't know if he had that stick, but I just love that brand. The third overall pick, the Washington Capitals are proud to select Dale Hawerchuk. I went with Dale as third for obvious reasons. Dane brought up a good point. One of the most underrated players of all time. Fourth overall pick, the Hartford Whalers are proud to select Chris Chelios. Obviously, longevity. This guy played for, Dane said, 96 seasons. He's probably still playing in some secret pro league. The guy had success on the ice. Defenseman, hard to come by, as I said, and he was obviously a lot of games proved in the pros, so he did what he had to do. The fifth overall pick, I was bouncing here, but the Colorado Avalanche, we are proud to select, after multiple debates about who to pick, the one and only Grant Fuhr. Grant Fuhr, the fifth overall pick to the Colorado Avalanche. Like I said, Grant Fuhr for the Stanley Cup wins, obviously. I did have Bobby Carpenter there at first, but I did switch that up. Carpenter had a really good career, and obviously you got Mike Vernon that you can put on that, and John Van Riesbroek, good mention there, Dane, but those would be my top 5, and Ronnie Francis is no other person that goes first in that draft. Sorry, Dane, love you, disagreeing with you, but Dale Howard,
Well, I had to put
give
a
the
hot
guy
take
credit.
there, so we didn't have the same thing. I just want to mention that Wayne Gretzky said that if when the Winnipeg Jets actually had a goalie in Dale Howardchuk's time, that they would have been right up there as one of the best in the league, along with Calgary and the Edmonton Oilers. So
yeah,
I'm just going to take my opinion from the best that ever did it, and I think you guys are wrong.
You know what I was going to do as a fun fact? I didn't do it because it's not realistic, but I'll say what I was going to do. I was going to say we have a trade to announce. The 5th overall pick has been traded to the Montreal Canadiens for the 7th overall pick and for the 18th overall pick, and the Montreal Canadiens are proud to select Grant Fuhr. That's what I was going to do. I was going to throw a little loop, but I said, okay, wait, we actually have to do a full redraft, keep it serious about who actually got picked, but then we can make these little fun things later that maybe would have happened or could have happened if that were the case. So don't ever do that in your segment, please. We won't do that in our segment, but I thought it would be funny to add that if I was the Montreal Canadiens, if I could go back in time, I would have moved up from 7th, even though they did take Mark Hunter. They could have definitely took Grant Fuhr or made a little move up to get somebody else. Fellas, that is our redraft. Good picks, different picks. Criticize us. Like I said, if you're on TikTok, Instagram, make sure you hit follow, like, subscribe. I don't know what clip we're going to have on TikTok in terms of the redraft. I'm probably leaning towards the guy in the pink sweater because it's his first one doing it this week. But nonetheless, might have a variation in there. Let us know who you think should be the top 5 in the 1981 NHL draft, and let us know your reactions to the whole segment below. If you tune in on YouTube, if you tune in on Apple, Spotify, wherever the heck you're tuning in, we appreciate it. But that simple like, that simple follow goes a long way. And if you look at our TikTok views or Instagram views, over 70% of people that are viewing those videos, I'll say it flat out right now, they're not hitting following or they're not following the page. So give us feedback on what we can do to let you have that follow, or you're just going to keep seeing those uploads and you're going to be missing out on great content from the Game Sports podcast. Alex Parr, my friend, how sweet it is to talk on here, how upset I was actually thinking about playing Shell tonight. And you said that you didn't want to play tonight.
Oh, that's not true. I just said I can't play tonight. There's a big difference. If you hang up this call right as soon as we're done this and load up immediately, I can play a few games.
Anyway,
Dane's in. Dave,
we'll take that offline. We'll take that offline. We'll take that offline. We gotta go. Okay, bye.
Wrap it up. Go. What do I do with my stick? What do I do with my touchdowns?
Pause that. Dane.
For fuck's sake.
Thanks as always.
I'm just not hockey related, but I'm going to say America's team, the Detroit Lions, are going to
fuck the Detroit Lions! Fuck the Detroit Lions! Hold on.
Sunday, baby.
Hold on.
Let's go.
Look, I'm Dane. Let me hop over here. Ooh, Bills. Yeah, Bills. Ooh, I love that. Oh, over here, Lions. Yeah, give me some of that, Lions. Pick a team. Your team is whatever bus has a revolving door so you can hop on the bandwagon with no troubles.
Oh, yeah. That's why I cheered for the Oilers, why they didn't make the playoffs for a gazillion
Yeah,
years.
you just didn't know any better when you picked them as a kid. God damn.
Go Steelers. Go Steelers. We're there.
You know what the Steelers should go do? Go get a quarterback.
Aaron Rodgers. Let's No. Cut that.
Fuck
no.
Aaron Rodgers.
Mike,
Jordan Love, baby.
Zach Wilson, baby, coming to Pittsburgh. Just kidding. No. That's also
yeah. You guys need another construction progress.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Fellas, thank you very much again. And I want to say thank you again to the listeners. Like I said, make sure you follow, and subscribe. Our content, I feel biased. I think it's fire. It's true content. We have great stuff coming up as well. Our next special edition show we will have with Tristan Grant. We're going to incorporate it to one of our episodes next week. Parr was on that show with me, Tristan Grant, and he did do a lot of coughing on our episode that I had to edit out. And I think Parr, remember he did a lot of coughing on that episode?
Who did, sorry?
Just coughing. Tristan Grant. Remember that episode we did with Tristan Grant?
I remember. I don't remember him coughing.
A lot of coughing that had to be edited out in that show. A lot of coughing.
Oh yeah, and then you a lot of coughing. Yeah, you paused the show and told him, "Shut your mouth, man." Remember that? You didn't do that.
He would kick my ass. Good guy, Tristan Grant. That's coming up very soon. Our next special edition. If you haven't listened to the recent one, speaking of NHL, James Sabalski. It was a great episode.
Great episode.
Great, and it was edited by Alex Parr too. By the way, Parr did a Great
It
job
was
with
For
that, Eddie.
free.
Yeah, Dane, let him know. Let him know.
Love you, Parr. Love you, Dane. Love you, listeners. I never said that before, but nonetheless, like I said, hey, make sure to like, follow, and subscribe. You listen to the Game Sports Podcast, powered by 91N. That's 91 Network, the YouTube channel. We're going to be back on Wednesday. We're going to have a segment. Don't know who's going to be on that first segment, but we are going to have In the Pocket on that second segment. A lot of football chat on there. Very much looking forward to that for sure. Until next time, I'm here to remind you, keep your stick on the ice, swing your bats, catch your touchdowns, drain your threes, and shoot your shots. Booyah.